MIDDLEKAUFF! Hey!
Asked which one hurts more on Tuesday. He said yes. So is there any part of you that wonders if Jimmy Garoppolo will be the starting quarterback against the Packers on Saturday night?
No. I mean, I'm at the point now where I expect him to play, but I mean, he's clearly banged up. And when he gave the description how he hurt his shoulder is because he didn't want to hurt his thumb, right? He's going down, and I've never broken a hand or had a cast, but people with splints or whatever, when they're going down on it, they have to roll. He kind of did that the way he described it, and he went down. Obviously, you have less of a length to fall if you put your hand down. Well, he put his elbow down because he didn't want to fall on his throwing hand. Then he jams his elbow and it jams back up to his shoulder. Now, he claimed, especially Kyle was pretty adamant that he's like, you have to ask Jimmy about the shoulder making his throws look shitty, but I just basically say, I'm like, it's just Jimmy throw some shitty passes. And his velocity, to me, even back to when he threw, the only one I give him a little bit of a pass on is the Tennessee pick, because the angle it gave in slow motion coming out of his hand looked really funny. Like, his picks are spirals. They just usually really high. That one, remember, was kind of like a wobbler.
Yeah. It
was like he couldn't grip it. I'll be stunned. Do you expect, Trey Lance has been named the starter? That's...
I would also be stunned.
If Trey Lance was let's say the Jimmy Garoppolo was out, Trey Lance was starting, what would the line be?
Well, some people suggest that this morning, Jason McIntyre tweeted major line movement because of this. The line surged to Green Bay -6. Green Bay -6 actually just seems like a reasonable line to me. Texted someone in SF about 90 minutes ago asking about Jimmy G. Lots of rumors like may not start good. And then Rap Sheet, noted PXG club owner, went on McAfee's show talking about it. That still shot I got, he didn't hold it like that the whole time, but it's almost like they paid him to pull the hat down once while he was on McAfee's show.
Drew
Honestly,
Parsons?
if you go on McAfee's show where there's 28,000 people watching at any given second, and you're not getting paid to wear whatever logo you're wearing, you are doing yourself a disservice. So hopefully Rap Sheet got himself at least a free set of clubs out of that. If you told me right now Trey Lance is the starting quarterback in this game, I'd say the line is
12.
I don't know. You were going to go double figures?
Do you think they could win with Trey Lance starting quarterback?
I wouldn't. Yeah. Do I think they could? Yes, I do think they could. I do think they
in a playoff
could.
game, his third start in his career on the road in Lambeau?
I think they could, yeah. I'm not saying I would. I'm not saying the odds are good, but I think they could. Yes.
I saw some,
I have that much faith in Kyle's run game.
I saw a couple people with the Packers, they're bloggers for the Packers, people that cover the Packers. I think the Niners' best chance to win this before it even got out that Jimmy was injured would be them starting Trey Lance. I'm like, guys, did you guys watch? I know you didn't. The Texans game. Let's not act like this guy's just, Patrick Mahomes year 2 right now. It could be overwhelming. This guy has made 2 NFL starts. They have been rocky. Listen, I am not some huge Jimmy defender, but I am on board now with Kyle, understanding he makes you feel good going into a game that he can play NFL playoff games. The Texans game was hard for Trey Lance. This game would be very difficult.
We had the discussion on the last podcast about how many good plays does one bad play cancel? Is it 3 good throws with 1 bad interception? A bad interception is worth a lot. If we go back, if we did a cut up of the year of Niners on third down, there would be so many 3rd and 10s, 3rd and 11s, 3rd and 8s that Garoppolo hit. There's a lot of those. If you go back and watch the
30 yards, they had a lot of slants that go big.
But I'm just talking about crunch time, big moment, 3rd and 11s. Go back and watch the last Packer-Niner playoff game. Kaepernick hits a couple huge 3rd and longs in that game. So ultimately, that is what is required of you in these games. There's going to be some game where everybody standing at home can barely hold their bowels, and you got to step up and make a big play.
Didn't Whitner mention that? Go back and watch. Kaepernick carried us in some.
And it wasn't
spots.
it was some huge runs, but he had some big throws. He had some huge runs. Maybe people are saying that.
I forget that game, to be honest with you. I might need to go back and watch that.
I mean, if you watch him run, the way he can turn the corner and accelerate, even at the sideline, the field looked like absolute ass, by the way. But like maybe people, Kyle did put Trey Lance in a critical spot in the first meeting between these two. It was goal to go situation. They're down 17-0. The half is about to end. Garoppolo's about to get sacked, and I'll whisper, kind of grounds a pass that could have been flagged for as he's like in the grass because they had no timeouts. 2 seconds left, and it's all or nothing. Shanahan's like, he can kick the field goal, make it 17-3, or try and score. And he brings Trey Lance into the game, and he gets that huge.
That was a sweet play. That's
play.
One of the highlight plays of the year. Just a one-off play.
Debo wasn't on the field. Ayuk was not on the field, and it was just go follow.
They went into halftime off that play, right?
Yeah. So it was a big play.
Do you think they have plays for him now, or like obviously last week they didn't need to use them because they were winning?
I kind of think they do, but I also Garoppolo. Yeah, Jimmy in the red zone. I mean, I don't know. I think you're okay with Jimmy in the red zone.
I'm gonna miss
Niners
Jimmy
are the number one. I said it last week, and you saw it. They put it on TV. Not me saying it. The Niners number one red zone touchdown team in the league by percentage. So, it's weird because it's not really a weakness of your team.
No, they have so many weapons, and they run the ball so well.
Jimmy has more rushing touchdowns than Trey Sermon.
Well, Jimmy is a fantastic short yardage sneaker, except when he needs to let his offensive tackle get set. Now, you could argue, did we need to shift him? Probably not, but
would have gone down as one of the all-time. If the Cowboys won that game, that specific play, I think might be worse than the interception.
Okay, let's say they win the game. Who's your number one culprit on that? Is it just Jimmy? You got to know you're a veteran quarterback. Do you need to shift Trent? Like, to me, that's a little Kyle-y. Like, that's a little much. You could just run the sneak. Like, it's unstoppable. I feel like the most Brady sneaks, and we've all watched a lot of Patriot big games, there ain't no shifting or anything. It's like fucking mano a mano, I'm sneaking.
Yeah.
And same with Jimmy. Like, they just do the sneak. He's great at the sneak.
Really, a lot of credit. How do you... Like quarterbacks, you can't hit the quarterback, but clearly Brady over the years was great at sneaks from the beginning, but they're kind of hard to practice because you don't want to put the quarterback in too much of a – have to break down with a coach how they practice sneaks.
It feels like there is a skill at like the probably a 10% of a second where you hesitate, you let them get a little push, and then you go. Because you don't go right away. You got to let them kind of take their initial explosion – and then you pick a lane, and then you go. Feels like Jimmy goes a little higher than Tom. I guess Jimmy can go low sometimes. Jimmy went high in the one that got flagged, didn't he? He kind of went.
He was like on Mac's back, kind of, right?
Yeah.
I was like, again, but
actually a little close for my liking. It wasn't. He didn't just pick up a yard. He picked up like a half yard on that play, didn't he? Because he was high, and they kind of.
I thought he got enough.
No, he got enough, but I'm just saying it wasn't.
He only needed.
Yeah, but sometimes I would say Jimmy sneaks gained like a yard and a half. This was not one of those.
The other thing that happened in the first Packer game was the use check sneak worked.
Which one? Oh, where he got in.
Which game did that fail in? It was a home game against. Somebody in the chat might remember.
Might have been the Colts.
I want to say it was Indianapolis too.
It was bad, and then no one. I could text them and ask them what happened, but clearly, no one really took like they didn't put it on one person or the other. It might have been like, wasn't he supposed to run the option? Game? Wasn't he supposed to run the option or something, and he just went?
But it worked in the first. That was one of the other things that happened in that game. I heard you texted me today because you were at the gym and you heard some guy listening to Pop and Lund. I was like, I wonder what Pop and Lund are up to.
No, I was on just a nature walk.
Oh, nature walk. And
guy's walking his dog, and I'm like. Is that Greg? And then the guy just keeps walking.
It happened to me yesterday. I was on a walk. A guy walks by with both dogs, and he's like probably, mid-50s, and he's just got his phone in his hand, just full blast listening, protecting his eardrums or something.
What was he listening?
I don't even know. But so I was like, oh, yeah, let's see what. So Chris Biederman was on from the Sacramento Bee, and he made the point. This was an interesting theory. He's like, maybe the cold helps Jimmy. It numbs the pain. I was like, I had not thought about that. Maybe it numbs the pain.
The one thing about Jimmy, and he talked about it today, like, I'm born and raised in this shit. Like, he is. We talk a lot about Derek. Like, the last thing I worry about Jimmy is the cold. Born and raised in Chicago, played in Chicago, and then played in New England. Like, to me, he's not a California guy. He's just probably dated a lot of our women since he's been here, but he is a cold weather guy. Like, to me, Tom became one by going to Michigan and then New England. Jimmy was born and raised in it.
Yeah.
Like, you and I mean, I think the older you get, it's probably hard to. Most people, they all avoid it like the plague if you've never been around it. When you meet people from there, like, it will not shock me at all if Jimmy's has a residence as he gets, like, in his 40s. Like, you were reading about what's Jimmy Garoppolo doing now? Like, has a pad in Chicago. Like, they like the cold. Now, he'd probably have a sweet pad in, like, Jupiter, Florida. He's got so much money. But I'm just saying, like, cold people they feel comfortable in that. I don't, but, that's why I always respect the Rodgers and the Bradys who go there and then they kind of become one with the weather.
I mean, how about Josh Allen going to Wyoming and then to Buffalo? Like, that's not where he grew up.
Feels very natural in it, too. Wouldn't you say Fireball is pretty hot?
Yes. Fire is in the name.
Yeah. You're right. And now I think maybe once you have a skill set, you can find, like, this is a big point. This is a separating factor for me. I can play well in this. It's harder for other guys.
Yeah.
It probably helps, right?
Yeah. Yep. I think
like the Euros playing in the wind in golf, they feel comfortable in it.
Well, and that's where, if you told me it was windy and Jimmy's arm was a little less than 100%, that'd probably be a little more concerning than cold and arm less than 100%. Although, again, Jimmy's arm, it's funny. Like, when you see him throw over the middle, like, there's plenty of arm there. And then sometimes you watch a deep ball or a throw to the sideline, and it doesn't feel like there's quite as much arm. But
it's just not, sometimes it's just a scattering report. Arm strength's not an issue. You would just say he's just not a good deep ball thrower. Not necessarily because he can't make it. Maybe he's just not comfortable doing it. He's just not good at the deep ball.
Yeah.
Because he can throw it 40, 45 yards, but they just do not. Yeah. It might just be as simple as he's not the most accurate player. I wouldn't say he's a naturally accurate player. And the deep ball does take some pinpoint accuracy, right? Pinpoint might be strong, but I mean,
it's a really hard ball to throw. I mean, we could start with that, right?
Yeah, it's the hardest ball to throw. That's why Russell, his deep ball is so beautiful, and it's always just drops right in the spot.
Brady.
Even Manning, for a long time, he would just have to get rid of it earlier, but he knew exactly where he wanted it to go.
Yeah.
Eli was a really good, I'd say, deep ball thrower. I feel like when I close my eyes and think Eli Manning, he just threw some deep balls, right?
Might have thrown the greatest deep ball in the history of the league to Mario Manningham.
Yeah. I mean, does Jimmy ever throw really? They just don't run that route. Any routes down the sideline, really, right?
No, I think even, again, not to go back to the first Packer game, they took some deep shots in that game that were not – one of them was a pick.
Was that the game where they hit a deep shot to Debo? Might have been a little later in the season.
They hit a deep shot in the Debo.
Jimmy did hit a post this year to Debo. I forget what game, but it was like, oh, they ran a post.
I don't remember.
The Niners' deepest routes are like, yeah, we'll just run some crossers and we'll push it back another 10 yards. No posts.
As long as you're open with like 12 yards around you, it can work. So I'm with you. I expect him to play. It would not shock me if you get something with Trey Lance in it. We'll talk more about like keys to the game. We've got a couple things that we'll talk about on Thursday's podcast. I think there's a couple critical things that the Packers do really well. One thing specifically that they do really well that kind of is a part of this that we can talk about Thursday, but but I do expect him to play. I don't know. I want to say you expect Trey Lance, but I think this is what's unique about Kyle is Kyle pulls things out that are quote unquote, curveballs that are with his normal personnel, with Debo, with Elijah Mitchell, with Ayuk.